Abraham is the father of faith. 3 religions trace themselves back to him: Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Billions of people back to one man. Here's what almost nobody mentions about him. Joshua chapter 24 verse 2. Joshua is giving Israel their own history, and he says this: Long ago, your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River and worshipped other gods. Terah, Abraham's father, named right there in the group that worshipped other gods. The father of faith came out of an idol worshipping household. He didn't inherit any of this. There was no godly family line behind him. He is the starting of the line. Everything downstream of him, all of it, begins with one man from a pagan household who heard God and went. I grew up in a family with a pastor in it, and I spent years quietly believing that was the advantage. I think I had it exactly backwards. I'm Kevin.
I'm Kavita.
And this is His Faithfulness, Episode 10. Last week I argued that the altar moved, that worship isn't the 30 minutes with the band. It's your Monday, your body, your work, your Wednesday, whatever it is, right? It's you. And you didn't buy it.
Of course. It's my Tuesdays, my Wednesdays, in the kitchen, it's everywhere.
I asked you straight out, are you talking about the song? Are you talking about life? And you said, start with the song.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make the point that it's about life, right? You said you have to have a foundation, you have to have a reason, and yours was the music.
So it depends on individual. For me, it's always the music. Yeah. What impacts you the most? What drives you the most? For me, it's music. It's so relatable.
So I've been thinking about that all week, right? Because you're describing something I have never once had to do. You walked into church with no vocabulary for any of it.
Knowledge, nothing.
Yeah, nothing, right?
Zero.
You walked with a blank slate. And you told me that the structure was the thing that made it learnable. Every week, the same thing.
Yes.
So you couldn't get lost, and that helped you. So here's what I couldn't put down. The structure is the thing that let you in. And tonight, I'm going to spend an hour arguing the same structure guarantees nothing at all for our boys. So, you needed a song to get in the door, or you still need a song to get in the door. Our boys have had the song since the day they were born, right? They grew up with all of this, the church, the routine, the whole structure you had to learn from scratch as an adult is ingrained in them. Has it been a door for them the way it has to you, or do you think it's just been furniture for them?
Interesting topic. It's one side it's me and one side it's them who's already have everything. Yes, of course, they were exposed, I would not to say since they were in my womb itself, right? Because listening to Christian songs, listening to worship songs, I love worship. I relate it to songs, and they have been, I'm pretty sure, listening to all this since in my stomach itself. I wouldn't say that furnished in terms of 100% furnished, because there's a lot more that they should learn, that they should learn, because you're not born with 100% faith in you and all those things, right? So all those things you have to build, right? You understand the concept of it. You understand the structure of it. This is Christianity. This is a Bible. You read it. I wasn't furnished with all those things. I didn't know. I saw a Bible, but I was like, okay, what book is that, right? So for the boys, it's easy, right? You just tell them, okay, you go read the Bible. You have a lot of things that you can learn from the Bible. Who is this? Who is Abraham? Who is Jacob? Who is who in the Bible, right? So it's easy. They just come to us and they ask for references and we tell them. For me, I had nothing. So I won't say 100% furnished. It depends on on the parents as well. right? You have to feed them the knowledge, build your faith, be close to God, learn how to speak to God. You can be wrong, you can speak in any language you want or whatever it is, it's fine. Because they're kids, right? So you don't need to be perfect. But all these things, it doesn't come naturally when they are born. Even though you're born in a Christian family, it's not furnished. You have to still teach them.
So, you can teach them, I think what you're saying is, we can teach them the religion part of it. Here's how you pray,
Yeah.
here's the songs that you sing, but you cannot teach them faith. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. There's a structure.
Faith is up to them and between them and God.
Correct. Yeah, there's a structure of it, right? And you can just tell them that, okay, now you're a Christian, now you have a Bible, you come from a pastor's background, your grandfather was a pastor, so, okay, you're set, so now you know everything. It doesn't mean that way. It doesn't mean that you're perfect, right? You're going to make mistakes in your life as well, and you're going to need to know what is right, what is wrong. Doesn't mean that you are born knowing the Bible, you're going to be perfect and you're not going to make mistakes, or even if you make mistakes, you think it's fine, right? So you have to feed them the knowledge, and they have to learn what kind of faith they have. It's within them. It will grow within them, and then they will, as I said, they will come and ask you questions and all that. You should be able to understand, and you should be able to tell them what is what, and this and that, and whatever it is.
So, let's sit with Abraham for a second, because we skip past it constantly. When God speaks to Abraham in Genesis 12, the instruction is, leave your country, your people, and your father's household. We usually read that as a geography problem. Pack up, relocate, hard journey ahead. But Joshua 24 tells us what he was actually leaving, right? Not just a postcode, a religious system, his father's gods. Abraham had no scripture, no commandments. All of those were 400 years away. This was brand new territory for him, right? No temple, no priesthood, no tradition, no example to follow. He had no one in his family who had ever done this before. He is, in the most literal sense available, the first of his line. And he is the one scripture calls the father of faith. So the headline is this, and everything else tonight is evidence for it. The single most important faith lineage in human history was started by a man with no faith lineage.
Sounds like what I have been through.
Exactly. You started where Abraham started. No faith in the household behind you, no model, nobody who'd done it before. You started where Abraham started. No faith in the household behind you, no model, nobody who'd done it before. When you hear that the father of faith came out of an idol worshipping home, does that land as encouraging, or is it just a nice piece of trivia?
Sounds encouraging because you don't have the background, you don't have anything, you don't have an understanding, right? But when I hear this God calling me out, walk with me, because I know that this God he knows that I was seeking for him, and as long as he knows that you're looking, you're seeking, believe me, you will have his presence, right? So you don't know what is faith, you don't know the fundamental of it, you don't know the concept of faith also, right? For me, it's like faith is just believing. I don't even understand this God, right? But when I was called and to follow God, this faith, it slowly builds up. It's not an overnight thing. It slowly builds up. Until now, I can say that I'm still building up my faith. It never ends. I think it's a lifelong thing. Until the day that you leave this world, your faith just keeps growing and growing. So for me, yes, I was like a newborn baby.
Someone will hear that and say, fine, Abraham was a special case. God had called him out, God had earmarked him. He got a direct call from God, and most of us aren't Abraham. Although I will argue that your story and Abraham's story has many similarities. And I think anyone who is in a similar background as you, who did not come from a faith household, has those similarities with Abraham. But fair, let's go the other direction, right? Let's go to people who had every advantage and who inherited everything. And let's watch what happens to them. The kings of Judah are the best evidence in scripture for me that faith does not travel down a bloodline automatically. It's all in one family. Same throne, same city, same people, 4 generations. And I want to zero in on these 4 generations. First, Hezekiah, one of the great kings of Judah. Second Kings says that there was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, before or after. He tore down the high places, he eliminated idol worship, he trusted God under siege. Right? When the city was under siege, he laid everything before God. And he had a son, Manasseh, right? Manasseh reigned for 55 years, the longest reign in Judah's history, and became the most notorious king they ever had. He rebuilt everything his father had torn down. He put idols in the temple itself. He sacrificed his own son. Think about that again slowly, right? The most devout king in Judah's history raised the most notorious one. Hezekiah did not fail to expose his son to faith, right? He made it a part of daily life, not just for his household, but for the entire nation of Judah as well. Worship in the temple became the norm. So Manasseh grew up with this, the same way our boys are growing up with it. He grew up inside the Reformation, but still chose the opposite. Now, Amon, Manasseh's son, 2 years king, wicked. He was so wicked, in fact, that he was assassinated by his own officials. So Amon followed on from his father. Then Josiah, right? 8 years old when he takes the throne. Wicked father who was murdered. Grandfather who filled the temple with idols. Can you imagine the temple of God in Jerusalem filled with idols? That's what his grandfather did. Everything modeled for the child was opposite of faith. Because think about it, right? He's 8 years old. He probably had a vague recollection of who his grandfather was. He had a bit of knowledge about who his father was. So he grew up surrounded by this evil and this disobedience to God. That's all he knew at 8 years old. Josiah becomes one of the most extraordinary reformers in the entire Old Testament. In the 18th year of his reign, workmen repairing the temple find the book of the law. Now think about that, right? It tells you how far gone things were. The scriptures were lost property in its own building. The scriptures, the foundation of the entire nation of Israel, right? Even in the temple itself, it was lost property. They had to find it by accident. They read it to him, he tears his robes, and he turns the entire nation around. Nobody taught him that. He had no model. He just found a book and he chose. So, in one family, in 4 generations, you get faith breaking downward from a godly father to a wicked son, and faith igniting upward again from a wicked father to a godly son. Both directions, same bloodline. Inheritance explains none of it. Right? So, here's where I think this gets frightening rather than encouraging. And I want you to say it rather than me. If faith doesn't pass down automatically, if Hezekiah could do everything right and raise Manasseh, if Amon could do everything wrong and raise Josiah, then what does that mean for us? We've got 4 boys. Doesn't this cut against us just as hard as it cuts for us?
Depends again, what I said earlier as well, right? How you raise them, and you can be from a strong Christian background or a pastor's background or whatever it is, right? But it still depends on the faith, right? You can be a pastor yourself and your grandfather was a pastor, right? So you tell me, were you born right away with faith and then naturally you were perfect and you didn't do any mistakes and you were like the good best example of in living in a... The question is back to you because I'm trying to understand, right?
I think I can say I wasn't born with anything. I was born as a baby.
Yeah.
But as a child, I think I had knowledge of faith.
Okay.
But I think I had to earn that faith along the way as I
Okay.
grew older.
Also, being there's another thing I believe you guys will believe this, that coming from a very strong pastor's background or religion, very strong religion background or whatever it is, being the first child, you always think that there should be the anointed one in the family, the next in throne, right?
Yeah.
And then it should be the eldest one, it should be the first one. To be honest, this is what I thought about Tristan as well. That, oh yeah, he's the anointed. Because he has all the qualities that I can see. He speaks up in church. He joins the worship, the mini worship that you guys have, the pre-service. And he participates in the singing. When I say worship singing, right? I
Yeah.
relate to that. And his prayers are very good. Gets longer and longer every time, but it's very good, right? He's almost like preaching already. So, do I think that he's anointed?
I don't know. Do you think that he's anointed?
Yeah, that's the question. Do you think that you were anointed just because your grandfather was a pastor?
It's a very difficult question.
Yeah.
Honestly, the honest answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if the talents that God has given me, the ability to speak, the musical talent, the ability to worship lead, I don't know if that comes through lineage or not. I really don't know. But I will say this, right? David was not the eldest of his
Correct.
family.
It's
David
coming to
came
that.
from the line of Abraham, right? There's a
Correct.
lineage.
Yes.
David was the youngest.
Correct.
So Aiden could be the one that ends up becoming
Exactly.
a preacher, an evangelist.
That is what I was coming to. David wasn't the eldest. He didn't have anything. But God, I think I mentioned this before, God chooses the strangest people, the most imperfect people, and that's the anointed one.
Yeah.
Anointed.
Yeah.
Even Samuel was surprised when he saw David.
Yeah. Samuel thought that the elder son was
Exactly. Everyone was surprised.
tall and strong, and that
Yes.
fit the perfect image.
The
right?
image, yeah. So when you say anointed, when you say the next in line, you always imagine, okay, this strong person who can preach, who can talk, who can sing. But then strangely, God picks up totally opposite, someone totally different. I am a person who do not have confidence in myself. I cannot sing. I have a stage fright. I cannot speak in front of people. If you ask me to preach, I cannot. And I don't have the knowledge to even pray, right? I always feel like I would embarrass myself. I don't have that confidence in myself. But God, I feel somehow has chose me to do this, right? To fulfill something, to be part of His ministry and to minister to people and to speak to people. And He is using me. I'm not perfect at all. And until now, I don't understand why. But I'm doing this because I believe that I am chosen by God. And this is what I should be doing. I cannot put words correctly. I cannot speak as good as my husband here. But here I am talking about all my experiences and still saying everything, what I know, what I believe in my faith. And that's it. For me, it's just go natural, believe in yourself. God is with me, right? So that's what I can say.
Let's talk about that lineage for a while, right? Because very interesting tangent you've taken us on with the lineage thing. Numbers chapter 25, a man called Phinehas. Probably most people don't even remember who this person was. Israel is in the middle of a national collapse, right? Idolatry, a plague is running through the camp. Thousands are dying. And in the middle of it, while everyone stands around weeping at the entrance of the tent, one man acts decisively to stop it. And God says this about him, right? Phinehas. He and his descendants will have a covenant of a lasting priesthood because he was zealous for the honor of his God. Here's the detail everyone always misses. Phinehas was already a priest, son of Eleazar, grandson of Aaron. He was born into the line. He already had the name, the title, the robes, the office. Like what you said, right? I was eldest grandson. Tristan is the eldest, born into a lineage of pastor. This was Phinehas, born into the lineage. Every credential the system could hand to a man. And it still wasn't enough. The lasting covenant, the one that carried forward through generations, didn't come from his birth certificate. It came from what he did in that one moment when it counted. That's the answer to the fear. Not that every effort guarantees outcome, because salvation by grace, it doesn't, right? And Hezekiah proves it. But that title never guarantees it either. Phinehas was as inside gets, but God still tied the covenant to the act, to what he did, not to his ancestry, which cuts both ways. And that's the whole point. If you come from 4 generations of faith, like our boys do, that heritage secures nothing for them. And if you come from nothing at all, like you, the absence costs nothing either.
Yep.
Everyone is standing on the same line. Ezekiel says it about as plainly as anything else in the scripture can. The one who sins is the one who will die. The child will not share the guilt of the parent, nor will the parent share the guilt of the child. And it cuts both ways, right? There is no spiritual inheritance tax. Nobody is born in credit and nobody is born in debt. We all start off from the same place with original sin in us. So, if none of this is guaranteed in either direction, what do you think we are actually doing with the boys? What's the job if it isn't guaranteeing the outcome?
Let them build their own faith. Yeah, so you are there to guide them, you are there to teach them along. You are there to, not to tell them what is right, what is wrong, but you yourself, you're not 100% sure, right? Because the Bible has so many contexts, right? So even you're understanding yourself. I'm learning as well. But what you know, what you understand, that's what you can pass down, right? You can tell them what is right, what is wrong. And it's upon them to how they perceive this knowledge, how they take in this knowledge, how you feed them and how they grow up with it. Right? I wasn't given all this. I taught this by myself. I learned this by myself. And of course, I grew bigger. My knowledge, I feed this knowledge to myself. And the boys has an easy access, of course, since born. So I believe in the end of the day is how they grow in their faith, in their own way. Yeah. So it's not about
in their own relationship with God.
Yeah.
That's why I think we make a decision to teach them to have a relationship with God, to talk with God.
Yeah.
Rather than, it's not so much about the structure.
No.
We teach them about the God and to have that relationship with Him.
Yes, exactly as what I used to do when I got to know about how faith works. I believe first step is opening up and spending your time one-to-one with this person, this God, building your relationship, right? And the trust has to be there. And therefore, the faith comes naturally, right? It's a relationship that you have with this God. So if one of the boys, Tristan, as I believe, maybe he's an anointed one, but if he's not sitting down and speaking to God, do I think that he's going to be serving in church when he grows up? Obviously not. If you're not going to sit down and talk to God and you're not going to have a relationship with God, no matter if you're anointed or not, in the end of the day, it means nothing. So
I love that point. If you can have everything going for you, like the 4 kings that we saw, but if you don't have that relationship with God, it means nothing.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we saw in that lineage of the 4 kings,
Yes,
right?
yes.
They had everything going for them, but 2 of them did not have that relationship with God, and it undid them.
Exactly.
So one more, and this is what finally undid the idea for me. 2 Timothy chapter 1, Paul is writing to Timothy. I am reminded of your sincere faith, which first lived in your grandmother Lois and in your mother Eunice, and I am persuaded now lives in you. 3 generations, grandmother, mother, son. That's the verse people quote when they want to talk about godly heritage. But go and read Acts 16 verse 1, where Luke introduces Timothy, right? Same person. His mother was a Jewish believer, right? His mother Eunice, she was a Jewish believer. His father was a Greek. And because of that, Luke does not call him a believer because of the paternal heritage, which was non-Jewish. right? So even the Bible's showcase example of generational faith is a broken line. It didn't come down the expected route through the father. It came sideways, grandmother to mother to boy, through a household where the father wasn't a part of it. That's the passage people hold up as proof that faith runs in families. And when you actually read it, it's proof that faith travels through whoever will carry it and skips whoever won't. Like the four kings.
Yes.
It skipped generations 2 and 3.
Yep.
So for me, right, it's very similar to my own journey. My grandfather was a pastor. His eldest son, my uncle, was a pastor. The expectation was for me to carry on that mantle. But as we discussed before, I did not immediately take to that. I rejected God. I rejected the side of God that was revealed to me through my family. And I wanted to find my own path with or without God. But we all know how that ended out. God very harshly pulled me back to Him. I grew up being told in various ways that the calling runs in our family, and I was inheriting something. I now understand that it's very dangerous to tell that to a child.
Correct.
It makes faith something or sound like something issued at birth rather than something chosen daily. And it quietly tells everyone without that family story that they are starting from behind. And I don't like that because they are not. They are not, right? I look at you and you are the best example for me of why they are not. There's no such thing as starting from behind. My grandfather didn't inherit it either. He was the first, but he decided. So the last word, someone listening out there today is probably the only believer in their entire family. No support, nobody behind them, possibly people who think that they've lost the plot and they've gone down a wrong path. What do you want to say to people like that?
I am exactly in that place. The only thing that I can say is that don't stop yourself. Don't give up. Do not give up, right? When you have that curiosity, when you're curious about finding God, continue. Just go on in the journey. People will come, people will think that you're crazy because I have so many non-believers in my family. Most of them are non-believers until today, right? So I can't tell them like, hey, go to church, be like me or whatever. No, I'm the odd one.
You're the only one.
I'm the only one. I'm the odd one. But I did wander around until I found this God, and this God finally spoke to me, right? So it's not an easy journey, but trust me, open that book, right? And just write your own story, write your journey, how you started with God. Do not give up. Fill that book up. That's your own Bible, right? Your own version, your story with God, how you started that relationship. So that's what I did. And today, I'm glad that I did that. I didn't give up. Though I may look the odd one, though I may look like the only strange one going to church and sitting down quietly in my corner reading the Bible, trying to understand, even though I did not, right? But I didn't give up. I didn't care about what people thought about me, right? I was trying to understand because I know there was something there. I know there was someone there. I know that this God was calling me to Him, right? So, yeah.
I like what you said about the writing your own book because many years ago there was a pastor. He gave me this very beautiful illustration. And he said that just because the Bible stops at Revelation doesn't mean that the story stops at Revelation, right? He said the same way that we are reading about Moses and Elijah and David and all these people, they are up there in heaven and they are reading stories about us.
Correct.
And when we go to heaven, we're going to be excited to meet all of these people. They are going to be just excited to read the stories of the modern day heroes.
Yes, yeah.
He was a pastor. You are someone who is new to faith, the only one in your family. And both of you are essentially saying the same thing.
Yep.
That the stories of the Bible are still being written.
Yes.
There is a book of Kavita.
Yes.
I'm not blaspheming, right? I'm not saying that there's an actual book of Kavita. I'm using it for illustrative purposes, so don't freak out.
So how I wish.
Right?
Now I'm writing my own book, my story that I have with God. Yeah. So
Yeah.
at least there's something that I can bring forward. This is how my journey is with God, my relationship with God. Right?
Yeah, and there's an audience in heaven that is actually keenly following that story.
Yeah.
And that's the same goes to everyone out there who thinks you are not doing something of worth by having faith in God. You are. You are. And there's an audience that is watching you do it and cheering you on. So, in that same way, Joshua, let's go to Joshua now, stood in front of a nation who had just heard their entire history read back to them, including the part about Abraham's father and his idols. And he put it as a straight choice. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Present tense, right? A decision made out loud in front of witnesses by a man who understood that the generation before him didn't settle it, that the generation after him wouldn't inherit it. Here is Joshua, just as they have achieved their goals and objectives, as they're entering into the promised land. He says, all of that inheritance doesn't mean anything. I am making a decision today. Me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That's the whole thing. Not a bloodline, a sentence somebody says and then lives. If you've got a heritage, it will not save your children. So do the work anyway. If you've got nothing behind you, you are not late and you are not behind. You're exactly where Abraham started, where my grandfather started, where Josiah started at 8 years old with a wicked father and a lost book. Somebody has to be first. It might as well be you. If you know someone who thinks they don't have enough behind them to start, share this with them. That's how testimony travels. If you're new here, start from episode 1. The story makes more sense from the beginning. Now, before we sign off for today, just a quick administrative announcement. It's been an amazing journey, 10 episodes. This is it. This is the conclusion of season 1 of His Faithfulness. We are going to be on a 3-week hiatus. I wanted to let you guys know, just in case you're wondering why there isn't a new episode next week or the next 2 weeks after that. But here's the thing. Season 2 is coming back and we're going to be better than ever. We've got a ton of great surprises for you guys. Stay tuned. We're sure you're going to enjoy it. Until next time, I'm Kevin.
I'm Kavita.
And this is His Faithfulness. He was faithful. He is faithful. He will be faithful.